Welcome to The Topic, where we highlight Houston Community College, our students, our programs, and our reach into the community. I'm Todd Duplantis. Thanks for watching this Tuesday afternoon. We're usually live every Tuesday at 1 p.m. You can catch us on Houston Community College District's Facebook page, YouTube channel, across social media. Make sure you subscribe to that YouTube channel, and you can also watch us on HCC TV. Today's job market, subject of this show, today's job market has incredible opportunities for people with the right skills and education. On today's show, we're looking at ways HCC makes getting those skills affordable. First up today, Sharday Campbell, Manager of Enrollment Communications and Social Media, gives us an overview. And you may recognize Sharday because she's also on our morning show, Up to the Minute. Good to see you, Sharday.
Hello, Todd. I'm in the guest chair today, so it's been a while.
I know we usually don't interact because you host the shows when I'm gone, but it's always good to see you on the show. Let's talk about why HCC is so affordable. I know during the pandemic, there was a lot of funding available for students. Is that still the case? And does it still help us keep our prices down to where students can afford to attend college and pay for it?
Well, what I will say is that HCC has remained committed to being an affordable opportunity to get your education. And although a lot of the COVID-19 funds are no longer available to students, our cost hasn't changed. And one thing I really want to drive home during this interview, because there's so much conversation. It's risen to the national conversation around student loan debt. But what's not a part of that conversation is what causes the debt, which is how much it costs to go to school, right? So if you keep your costs down by going to school, the cost down by where you choose to go to school, it's directly proportional to how much loan debt you take on. Of course, there are other factors. So HCC has remained one of the lowest cost in district tuitions in Houston, which inherently makes us affordable price point, not only for two-year colleges, but also as an option for those who are looking to start their 2 years here at HCC and transfer to a four-year institution.
Right. Well, you made a good point. I mean, we try to keep the cost down. You don't want to borrow more than really what you need, because sooner or later you're going to have to pay it back. But let's talk about some of the things that HCC does to remove those financial barriers, because there are a number of ways that we look to help the students to keep their costs down.
Yeah, absolutely. So starting off, we do not have an application fee. We have one of the lowest costs, unless for international students. International students are a little different, but the greater majority of our population do not have an application fee. Our low cost of tuition. We also have textbook savings programs where students can save across the board. So we're removing financial barriers at every point of what it costs to go to college. So we're thinking through that all the way down to the fact that we don't charge students for parking, except with the exception of one campus that is in a medical center. We couldn't avoid that one. But other ways to help cover costs are tuition exemptions, installment payment plans. So if you are looking to pay out of pocket, that's an option. And of course, what most people know, and I'm not going to go too deep into it because we have a resident expert on financial aid up next. But financial aid is something that everyone is encouraged to do, whether you are part-time, whether you are full-time. And our financial aid department has an awesome leadership team that makes sure that they're communicating throughout the entire process to help people get in early and get an education. And one of the other ways that I want to highlight are we have a couple of opportunities or initiatives that allow students to qualifying students to go to school for free. That's our Eagle Promise program for recent high school grads, and in addition to our Honors College initiative for students that are qualified for the Honors College, they would essentially be able to get their entire cost of their education covered. So we're thinking through this, like all of those points that may help you either reduce the cost or remove the cost. So we're always thinking about ways to keep HCC affordable to students.
Right. And I wanted to talk a bit about the textbook savings. That's one thing you kind of glossed over and talk briefly about it. But textbook savings, we were talking open-ended resources where the textbooks may be available online. How common is that? How widespread is that across our college? I mean, it seems like the faculty's really bought into this, and that could save students, hundreds, if not $1,000 or more dollars a semester, right?
Yeah, this really started when people really started looking at how much the cost of learning materials was affecting students' ability to complete. Because if you can't afford the books, then you're starting classes without the resources that you need. So we had our leadership team in instruction started off with what was called a Z degree program, which has a few of our degree options here at HCC that all of the classes that you take, those textbooks are free, and open educational resources are essentially online learning materials for students. But in addition to that, we also have low cost books that guarantee that your books or learning materials would be below $40. So there are a couple different options. And when students at the time of enrollment, they will see these codes attached to these classes, so they will know which classes have textbook savings, so they can begin to prepare for when they begin to enroll, they should be thinking through, hey, which one of these courses will help me save money on books?
Are you finding those courses are the ones that students are kind of gravitating towards?
I don't run the program, so I wouldn't be able to provide data, but my role in enrollment is to drive students to those courses to help them understand, like, hey, this is available. If you're worried about the cost of your books, then you really need to be looking into these courses that offer these textbook savings.
Another thing that we offer is free mental health counseling with counselors available to all of our students. That's another thing that doesn't cost the students extra out of their pocket. And I imagine, especially now, could save money, especially if you need to get in and talk about a few things.
Yeah, absolutely. Our counseling department is phenomenal. And I think, a lot of times we think about mental health resources while you're in a crisis. But I think thinking through this through the lens of college brings on extra responsibility. It may bring on some anxiousness. And if you are tap into those resources early because you know that they are available to all enrolled students, it'll help with your experience with college and how you're able to juggle these new responsibilities. So this is definitely, from the lens of Houston Community College, something that we think is crucial to completion and crucial for our students to be able to have access to year-round.
Sharday, and we didn't get to the free parking. I think we all take that for granted. Boy, that saves you a lot of money too. That's a good point in there. Sharday Campbell, thanks for joining us this morning. Thanks for being on the show, and we'll see you next time on Up to the Minute. You're on there weekly now.
Yes, absolutely. And Todd, if I could just take a point of privilege, 10 seconds. We also have free software, loaner computers. So check out the free technology for our students. I'll wrap out on that.
Can't miss out on that too. Thanks, Sharday. All right, we'll see you again. And we're going to take a short break. When we return, we'll learn about the ins and outs of applying for financial aid. Very important. The topic returns in 60 seconds.
Sometimes what you need just shows up. Houston Community College has your back, whether you're knocking out some basics or upping your game for a better job. Enroll today for spring classes and frame your future with HCC.
For more than a year, we have kept you informed with more than 500 remote episodes. But now we're back, bigger and better, with more news and more guests. Join us live every weekday at 10 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube, and on HCC TV at noon and 5 p.m. You can watch from anywhere. We go where you go.
Welcome back to The Topic. I'm Todd Duplantis. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. We're usually here about 1 p.m. every Tuesday. You can watch us live on Facebook and in social media as Houston Community College District. Also, you can download audio versions of all of our shows as podcasts at hccs.edu/podcast. This afternoon, we're talking about financial aid, paying for college, all the things you need to know. Well, in order to get financial aid, grants, scholarships, any of those things, you have to apply for them. Dr. Joellen Price, HCC Executive Director of Financial Aid, joins us right now to talk about it. Good to see you again, Dr. Price. How are you?
Good to see you. Thank you, Todd.
Here's a question I get just about all the time. My kid could use some financial aid, they could use some grants, but we're not sure if they would qualify for that. What are the ins and outs? Because I imagine it's different for financial aid and grants, but one way or another, you have to apply, right?
Yeah, the application process is free, doesn't cost anything. It's online. Students can log into their computer. They can use their phones. Many of our students now use their phones to do the application process. Walks them through the process. There is an income information that has to be provided, but now students can link with the IRS directly and have that information automatically loaded into their application, which makes it even easier to do. We have financial aid support staff members at the campuses on Zoom that they can call in and get some assistance with the application process. It can be intimidating. It appears to be a lot of questions, but most of our students don't have to answer a lot of those questions because of skip budgets. So it's a lot easier than people imagine, and it doesn't take long to do. So you're right. The application process is your first step to determine what students can qualify for in terms of grants, work programs, and loan programs.
Now, is everyone entitled to certain types of grants, or is it just for certain? And then are there areas where you can get more in grants if you qualify in certain areas? How do the grant situation work?
Well, the grant is income-based in terms of the federal and state grant programs. Students that apply automatically get considered for all of the federal and state grant programs that are administered through the free application for federal student aid. Now, we do have some grant programs that are limited in terms of funding. So the earlier a student applies, the more apt they get the most amount of grant money that they'll qualify for. If they wait until later, into the year, say 2 months before the start of the school year, they will miss out on some of the grant programs that are limited funding.
Well, that was a good point, because I was going to talk about that next, or ask you about that next. And I imagine the funding is limited in many cases. So it is true. If you apply early, you have a chance of really possibly getting more access to the money that's out there.
That is absolutely accurate. So some of the state grant programs are limited. The federal supplemental grant program is limited. Even in our work study program, students that want to work and earn money while they go to school, that program is limited in terms of funding. In terms of unlimited, if a student qualifies for a Pell Grant or student loans, they can access those pretty much at any time prior to the start of the semester, and sometimes even during the semester. If they find that they're paying out of pocket and they're struggling a little bit, they can apply even during the semester.
And are there, speaking of applying, are there certain dates you should look for if you're applying for, say, next spring, or let's talk next summer, or it's not even too early to start thinking about fall and when you might have seniors graduating?
Right. So if a student is looking to attend spring or summer of 2023, they need to complete the 22-23 FAFSA. But also those that are looking to start next fall of 2023, they can complete the 23-24 FAFSA now. It's already open. It opened on October 1st. So students that want to come, spring or summer, they do the 22-23, and at the same time, they can do the 23-24 to get ahead of the game for next fall, spring, and summer.
And it leads to another question. You kind of answered that, but if you apply once for financial aid, do you have to keep applying every semester, or can you use that one application?
It's an annual application process, and there's no way to get around that. The application opens up October 1st for the following fall semester. So basically, you can apply almost a year in advance. So applying early is easy to do because the application is open early.
We were talking with Sharday about this earlier, and a lot of the pools of money that were available during COVID-19 aren't available any longer. But what type of extra aid is there out there for students to help pay for their college where they're somewhat debt-free when they get out of college?
Right. We have a lot of programs. We try very hard to utilize all our available pots of money that the school has, the institution, because we have institutional grants and scholarships, we have federal grants and scholarships, and then we have the state programs. So we try to pool all those different pots of money together to make sure that we can help a student, especially a student with low to middle income, access as much grants as they can so they don't have to take out student loan debt.
Sharday also mentioned Eagle Promise and Honor College. How does that work into the equation of helping to pay for the student's debt?
Well, they do require the FAFSA. So it's really important. Most of the grant and scholarship programs students might want to access do require some type of needs analysis or need calculation to determine their need for funding. There are academic scholarships that are not based on need, that are based on the student's performance in school, but the majority of them are based on need. So they need to do the FAFSA. Our Eagle Promise has a separate application. It's just a quick one-page application for those who are interested in that program, because there's a little bit of difference in terms of they have to be right out of high school. They have to have at least a 2.0 GPA in high school. So there are a few extra qualifications for the Eagle Promise program. But if they qualify and they take at least 9 or more credits each semester, then we're guaranteeing that their tuition fees and up to $500 of books each semester is covered by grant money.
Dr. Joellen Price, she is the Executive Director of HCC's Financial Aid Department. Thanks for being here on the show and clarifying all of this for us. I know there's a lot of questions parents have, and we'll give them a website where they can go to our website and reach your office. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we return, we'll hear about HCC's foundation and how they award scholarships, all that and more. The topic's back in 60 seconds.
Sometimes what you need just shows up. Houston Community College has your back, whether you're knocking out some basics or upping your game for a better job. Enroll today for spring classes and frame your future with HCC.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
Welcome back to The Topic. I'm Todd Duplantis, and we're live on a Tuesday afternoon, as we are just about every Tuesday at 1 p.m. on Facebook Live and YouTube. Look for us across social media. Find us under Houston Community College District. Also, you can watch us on HCC TV, and you can download audio versions of our shows at hccs.edu/podcast. We're talking about making college affordable. And right now, we're going to check in with HCC's foundation. Felicia Brooks joins us this afternoon. She is the scholarship coordinator. Good to see you, Felicia.
Good to see you too, Todd. Thank you for having me.
So first question to ask, is it ever too late to fill out time to get a scholarship or an application for that? Or is there a certain time period you need to aim for? How does that work?
Well, we typically have our annual scholarship application has an open and close date. This year is a little different because we implemented new software to make it easier for the students. So our current application for the 22-23 academic year will be open until November the 18th this year.
Okay. In November 8th, they have to apply. How long does it take to fill out this application? If students are wondering, is it going to take me as long as the FAFSA takes? How does that work?
This application is super easy. It doesn't take, if 5 minutes is probably the max. So it's basically a lot of questions that relate to criteria for the donor scholarships that we have. So it's very simple and it's quick and easy. 5 minutes max.
I know when I many years ago when I went to college, let's put it that way, you had to seem like fill out applications for this scholarship, that scholarship, but that's totally different now, isn't it? I mean, one application you can get across to all the scholarships. And is it still true that some money is never granted because the scholarship was never asked for? How does that work?
Well, with the scholarships that we have, each scholarship has their own criteria. So with the one application, we made it a one-stop shop. So we didn't want students to, go to several different applications. So it's one-stop shop. And what happens is based on the answers to the questions in the application, as well as the imported data from our PeopleSoft system, we get everything, it ties together. So it puts the students in the scholarships that they may be qualified to receive.
And speaking of qualified, what are the minimum qualifications for HCC's foundation scholarships?
Well, various donors have different criteria, but the very minimum will be like six credit hours per semester and between 2.5 and 2.0 GPA. That's the bare minimum.
And are scholarships typically awarded any time, or is there a certain time of semester that students can hear from whether or not they get awarded a certain scholarship?
We're normally in an awarding process all year. Typically, we try to get most of our scholarships awarded early on. As I stated before, we implemented new software, so our application opened later for this academic year, but our normal application dates are January 15th through June 15th. So students are always applying for the upcoming academic year. This is the only exception because of the new software. So we've been awarding since late July. So we're still awarding and offering scholarships.
If a student is in need, could they possibly be awarded multiple scholarships, or is that something you can only get one? How does that work?
You can get more than one. We try to limit it if possible because we want to impact as many students as possible, but we do have instances where students receive more than one scholarship.
Is there a typical amount for scholarships? I mean, you hear $500, $1,000. Does it go higher than that? How does that work?
Yes, it's all based on the donor. So each donor has their own criteria. We have some as low as $150 and then some as large as $4,000.
If a student gets a scholarship, do they have to use it to pay for the tuition, or can they use it for living expenses or their gas or maybe food or something like that?
Well, 99.9% of our scholarships are for tuition fees and books.
Okay.
So yes, it's all academic.
So it would go, and then does the scholarship get directly paid to financial aid, or is the student charged with doing that themselves? How does that work?
We do it all. So once they accept the offer, we go in and we actually award the student, and it automatically applies toward their tuition fees that are in the system. And if there's anything left after we've dispersed, they may use that for to make bookstore purchases at an HCC bookstore.
If someone's watching right now and they're thinking, you know what, I want to enroll in classes for the spring, do I still have time to obviously apply? They've got till November the 8th. But what if they go beyond that? Will there be a process where in early spring they can start applying for scholarships again?
Well, we typically have one annual application, and it's always for the upcoming academic year. So if they're looking for funding for spring, I would strongly suggest going to our website and completing the application by November 18th, because then they will be able to be part of the funding for this current academic year. So when the new application opens in January, they'll be applying for consideration for 23-24.
Okay. And if a student, one final question, and I'm kind of wondering this myself, if a student has debt that they're taking on to pay for a semester and then they qualify for the scholarship, can that money be used just to pay for that debt in any shape or form? Or is it going to be used on the next round of classes that they're going to take? How does that work?
So are you asking if they have current outstanding balance?
If they have an outstanding balance, can the scholarship be used to pay off that outstanding balance?
Yes, depending on the award amount, yes, it will definitely take care of the tuition and fees.
Incredible. Well, we're always, it's always great to work with everyone at the HCC Foundation. We appreciate the work you guys do with bringing in the donors and all the money you raise to assist our students. Thank you for being here, Felicia.
Thank you, Todd.
All right. And if you're interested in more information on our foundation and scholarship process, we'll put a link in our social media post after the show. We're going to wrap up this week's show. I'm Todd Duplantis. I want to thank you for joining us this Tuesday afternoon. We'll be back next Tuesday for another edition of The Topic live at 1 p.m. We'll see you then. Have a great week.